Hello, this is Todd Booth, and this is a tour of my program that I wrote to help me do my teacher's work. I have an SQL database I created, and I create tables for classes, and I have a web robot that goes to Fronter, and it screen scrapes, and it populates the database with the student ID, first name, last name. It says they're in Fronter. Also, it keeps track. If it goes to screen scrape again, and it does not find the student who was there before, then I know they have been removed from Fronter, removed from the class. And if it's the first week or two, I know they might have been kicked out due to registration, and then I send them an email reminder, and I can send it to just the students who have been kicked out. I keep track of their private email, which I pull in from EduSRT. They give me a spreadsheet, and then I have my web robot go over to Ideal, and it figures out if they're registered to the course, if they're registered to the program. And also, my robot goes through and iterates. It looks through all the different years through Ideal, and it has to manually pull up one page per year, and it figures out what is the course year that they were registered, and what is the program year when they were registered to the MSc program. Then the robot screen scrapes and figures out from Ideal if they're in Lulio, based out of Lulio or based out of the internet. And I pull in from EduSRT a spreadsheet, and my program reads it and automatically populates the Swedish personal ID. And from the Swedish personal ID, if it's has a T in the fourth to last column, then they're not Swedish and not a permanent resident. Otherwise, they are Swedish. So I even have that information as well. And that helped me, for example, know that I had a class with 100 students. I had about 16 students in Lulio, and only one of them was Swedish and in the information program. That was interesting. Okay, well, that's the database. And then from the database, what I can do is lots of different queries. And I also have access to the Moodle database. And here's a Moodle database. And I like Moodle because I can programmatically look and figure out what students have done what activities, and I can automatically generate email based on a program and SQL queries. So you can see in the Moodle database we have a whole bunch of tables. There are quite a few. It just goes on and on. And what that means is in my SQL I have to do lots of joins to try to find out information I'm looking for. But what I can do, for example, is I can see if students have been filling out my surveys. I'm doing some research, so I have them fill out surveys to get survey information about the course, and then I can programmatically send out emails to different students, and I can say to students like, oh, I noticed that you are in Fronter but you haven't joined Moodle. You need to do this, that, and the other to join Moodle. Or maybe I'll say you're not in Fronter any longer, but you're in Moodle. If you want to quit the class, then let me know and I'll delete your Moodle account. Or I could say, oh, I noticed that you've only answered 5 out of 10 of the survey questions, so you need to answer more. And what I do is I programmatically generate the emails all automatically, so each student has a customized email, so I don't have to spam students with information that's not related to them. Otherwise I could just send out one massive email and try to tell people, if this applies to you, do this. If this applies to you, do this. But I don't do it that way. I have it really nice. So that's part of my email automation. And then let's talk about where do we go from here. Well, the problem is my program is hundreds of lines, maybe over 1,000, or maybe it could be 2,000 of all the stuff I've done. And I'm happy to share that with people, but it's only going to help people who know C# and SQL database. And I have hard coded it for my classes. So, and also it changes quite often. So if anyone else is going to use it for their classes, they're going to have to change it for their course. And also, I have a user interface to it. I'll show it to you now. And the program, it's written in C#. It's a Windows app. I've got a menu here, and then I can have different activities. So, for example, I can update. Here's a good one, Major Prepare. I run this usually like once a day, just before I do things. And what it does is it does a new screen scrape from Fronter, from Moodle, from Ideal, and it populates my database with all the latest information to the last minute. Then I have an email prepare, and that goes through and generates, it figures out for every student what it's going to send to them via email, and it creates an in-memory, you could say, table. And in that in-memory table, in memory, it's got all the information, all the students, all their information, and what type of email I'm going to send to them. And then when I do an email send, it's going to go ahead and look in memory, and then from the data structure in memory, it'll send out the email to all the students. See, that way I can prepare it, and then I can look at the in-memory copy, and then I can see if it's exactly correct or if I found any mistakes. And if it looks good, then I can just go ahead and send it. And then I have different things like Ideal, if I want to just look through Ideal and populate the database, if I want to do Moodle and copy some Moodle information to SQL database, etc. So that's the program. Where should we go from here? Well, I don't think a lot of teachers are going to want to take over and get a copy of my C# code and my SQL work, SQL queries, etc., and then hard code it for their class or generalize it or whatever. And also, even if they did, from time to time, I'm going to be making enhancements. I mean, like every week I do a little studying of computer programming languages, and improve it a little bit. So I don't think that makes sense. What I do think makes sense is now we have a working prototype. We can show IT service it can be done. We can show them how it can be done. I can help them if they're stuck. Why don't we have IT service generalize this and then make it automatically available for all classes? It should be really easy because it's already working for one class. They just have to make some minor changes to iterate through each class. And then what they could do is they could have the following available as a service from IT service. They could make it so each teacher, like me, I could have access to an SQL view. And an SQL view, it can be read-only, and then I can have access to the data that I've been collecting automatically. And then also for teachers who would prefer Excel instead of database access, they should be able to click a button, and then it will create a spreadsheet and download it. And they'll have an Excel spreadsheet of their own class, and then they can download it from time to time, or via Excel they can create a link to an online copy, and then they don't have to keep downloading it. They'll have instant access to all changes. So there you go. Hope you liked it. Bye for now.